Beloved, hear the word of the Lord. The trumpet of heaven is sounding, echoing across valleys of fear and over the mountains of striving. A divine decree is going forth this very hour, clear, undeniable, irrevocable. It's over. Stop. Stop the anxious running, the frantic grasping, the endless rehearsals of what might go wrong. Stop bowing to the idols of approval and control. Stop empowering the chains that were shattered at the cross. Heaven declares an end to the tyranny of yesterday's shame and tomorrow's dread. The sentence has been passed and the gavel has struck. The enemy's claim over you is null and void. When Israel stood trapped between Pharaoh's armies and the sea, terror whispered, "There is no escape." Yet God thundered, "Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord." In that stillness, the impossible opened. The same voice speaks now. It's over. Stop. Stop letting the roar of opposition drown out the sound of deliverance. The waters you fear will part at the rising of His hand. There comes a time when God speaks into the chaos and declares a final word, a word that cuts through confusion, anxiety, and striving. That word is, "It's over." Not a whisper of suggestion, but a command, a divine ceasefire to the war you've been waging in your mind and heart. You've been trying to hold everything together, fix what's beyond your reach, and control what was never yours to carry. Worry has become a companion, stress a constant shadow, and yet the voice of God breaks in with clarity. Stop, not because He's giving up on you, but because He's already taken up the battle. The struggle you've been fighting is not yours to finish. The weight you've been dragging was never meant for your shoulders. It is finished because He has spoken it so. When that divine command echoes into your spirit, it calls you to surrender, not as a sign of defeat, but as a path to freedom. It's an invitation to cease striving and begin trusting. All the sleepless nights spent turning over problems in your head, all the racing thoughts trying to figure out every outcome, He calls you to release them now, not tomorrow, not when things make more sense. Now, the same voice that calmed the wind and waves is speaking into your storm and commanding peace, not as a suggestion, but as a verdict. Peace, be still. There's a kind of sacred stillness that comes when you realize that the outcome doesn't rest on your performance. That stillness is not passive. It is active trust. It is the boldness to stop running and the courage to wait. When the people of Israel stood before the Red Sea with the Egyptian army behind them, they were told to be still and watch. The deliverance didn't require their panic, it required their pause. And that same principle holds true today. Sometimes the miracle doesn't come through your movement, but through your stillness, your obedience to stop and let God move in ways your striving never could. You don't have to earn your way out of the storm. You don't have to figure out the entire future before you can rest. You only have to believe that the one who brought you this far has already written the ending. His word is not bound by your understanding. His promises aren't canceled by your anxiety. So when He says it's over, believe that the war you've been fighting in your spirit, the burden of trying to do it all, is ending. Not because it's all solved in your sight, but because it's settled in His. Stop and let peace take the place of panic. Stop and let faith silence fear. Stop and listen for the still, steady voice reminding you that you're not the one holding the world together. He is. And because He's in control, you can let go. It's over. Stop. Rest in that. There is a moment when the weight of shame becomes unbearable, when the memory of past choices clings so tightly that it feels impossible to move forward. It whispers that you are disqualified, too far gone, too broken to be restored. But then comes a greater voice, one that doesn't wait for you to clean yourself up or make a perfect confession. This voice interrupts the cycle of guilt and says, "Come home." Not after you fix everything, not after you prove yourself, now. And when you return carrying the baggage of failure and disappointment, you don't find judgment, you find a celebration. You're not met with crossed arms, but with open ones. You're not given a lecture, but a robe. You're not questioned, you're welcomed. This is what divine mercy looks like. It doesn't wait until you're worthy. It meets you exactly where you are. It stops the rehearsed apology, silences the internal accuser, and replaces regret with restoration. That is the power of love unearned. You don't have to earn the embrace. It's already waiting. You don't have to convince anyone to let you back in. The door was never closed from the other side. While you were still far off, mercy was already running to you. There is a tendency in human nature to believe that forgiveness comes only after punishment, that redemption requires pain. But true grace doesn't follow our logic. It interrupts it. Grace says the price has already been paid and the debt no longer belongs to you. The moment you turn back, even with trembling steps and uncertain words, grace rushes in to restore what shame tried to steal. What was lost is found. What was broken begins to heal, not by your efforts, but by the sheer force of love that refuses to let go of you. The voice that says, "It's over, stop," also says, "Your past does not define you." The cycle of shame is ended, not because you covered it up well, but because light exposed it and washed it clean. You can stop punishing yourself for what mercy has already forgiven. You can stop reliving moments that no longer have power over you. The guilt you've carried is no longer your identity. Your name is no longer tied to your failure, but to your future. And your future is not built on brokenness, but on restoration. This is the moment to receive the truth that love isn't waiting for you to be perfect. It's inviting you to be present right now, in the middle of the mess, with questions unanswered and wounds still fresh. You are not rejected. You are chosen. You are not cast aside. You are carried. Let the weight of... There are seasons when doors close, plans fall apart, and nothing seems to go the way you hoped. It's tempting in those moments to feel rejected, to believe that something is wrong with you or that you've missed your chance. The human heart often sees closed doors as a sign of failure, or worse, abandonment. But there's a deeper truth at work. When a door closes, it's not always denial. It may be divine redirection. What feels like rejection may actually be protection. Not every opportunity is meant to be taken. Not every path leads to the right destination. Sometimes the very thing you're begging to open is the thing that would destroy you if it did. The frustration of being denied something you wanted can be intense. You pray, you wait, you knock, and still nothing moves. But not everything that looks good is good for you. There are moments in life when the delay or denial you experience is saving you from something unseen. While you're focused on what you lost, what you don't always realize is what you're being saved from. Timing matters, alignment matters, and not every open door is a divine one. Some lead to distractions, others lead to detours, and some lead to destruction. When you're being led by something greater than your own desires, you must come to trust that even the no carries purpose. Closed doors are often signs that you're being guided, not ignored. It's easy to think that if something doesn't work out, it means you're doing something wrong. But sometimes it means you're being kept on the right path. What looks like a setback could be a safeguard. What seems like an unanswered prayer might be a louder answer than you think. It's just not the one you expected. In these moments, it's important to shift your perspective from frustration to faith. Trust is not built only in the receiving of what you want, but in the waiting, in the letting go, and in the redirection. Faith grows when you believe that your path is being shaped even when it doesn't make sense to you. The hand that closes one door often opens another in its time, and that door, the right one, will not need to be forced. It will open in peace. It will align with purpose, and it will bring clarity, not confusion. It takes strength to stop striving for something that isn't meant for you. It takes wisdom to release what you were convinced you needed. But in that release, in that surrender, something new begins to form. Something better, something safer. You won't have to beg for it. You won't have to force it. You'll simply walk into it and it will feel like home. Trust that every closed door is not a punishment. It's a sign that you're being led, protected, and prepared for something greater than you could have built on your own. Thought for 10 seconds. The longing to excel is woven into human nature, yet perfectionism twists that noble desire into a relentless critic. It demands spotless records, unbroken streaks, and flawless outcomes, offering approval only at the finish line, if the finish line even exists. In chasing that mirage, energy drains away, joy shrivels, and relationships suffer because no moment ever feels good enough. Surrender, by contrast, seems counterintuitive at first glance. Culture prizes hustle and self-sufficiency, so the idea of laying down control feels like waving a white flag. Yet surrender is not defeat. It is a strategic decision to exchange limited power for unlimited provision. The very act of admitting limits clears space for grace to breathe. Instead of forcing every door, you wait for the right door to open. Instead of hiding weaknesses, you place them in hands strong enough to transform them into strengths. Consider the difference between a clenched fist and an open palm. A closed grip might protect what you already have, but it cannot receive anything new. An open hand risks vulnerability, yet it is the only posture able to accept fresh provision. Surrender turns clenched fists into open palms. It whispers that value is not measured by unblemished performance, but by willingness to be guided. Victory grows in that posture because struggles once faced alone now draw on a power that never runs dry. Where perfectionism breeds anxiety, surrender births peace. Where perfectionism insists on constant proof, surrender rests in constant assurance. The paradox deepens. Surrender actually fuels perseverance. When flawless execution is the standard, failure feels fatal, so risk becomes terrifying. But when victory is defined by dependence rather than perfection, failure loses its sting. Setbacks become teachers, not evidence of inadequacy. You learn, adjust, and move forward without the heavy cloak of shame. Over time, those iterative steps, strengthened by grace, lead further than any single burst of flawless effort could have carried you. The slow, steady rhythm of trust builds resilience, and resilience is the true backbone of lasting success. Surrender also recalibrates motivation. Instead of striving to earn worth, you respond to love already given. Actions shift from fear-based to gratitude-based. Work is still done, dreams are still pursued, excellence is still valued, yet the emotional burden changes. You create not to secure identity, but to express it. You serve not to gain approval, but to share the overflow received. That subtle difference transforms stressful obligation into joyful purpose. Finally, surrender frees you to celebrate progress. Perfectionism waits for the distant someday when everything is flawless before allowing rest or celebration. Surrender permits gratitude at every milestone, acknowledging that each small victory is evidence of guidance at work. You cheer the single step, the partial breakthrough, the newly learned lesson, knowing the journey itself has value. This atmosphere of encouragement invites others to shed their own perfectionist chains, creating communities marked by authenticity and mutual uplifting. In the end, surrender does not lower the bar, it relocates the source of strength. Victory arrives not because you flawlessly climbed every mountain, but because you walked with the one who levels mountains before you and lifts you when you stumble. That partnership produces a life richer, freer, and more impactful than the most polished performance ever could. In the end, this message is a divine call to release what was never meant to be carried. The constant striving, the burden of shame, the pain of closed doors, and the exhausting chase for perfection, all of it meets the firm and freeing voice of God saying, "It's over. Stop." This isn't a word of condemnation, but a word of release. It's an invitation to lay down every fear, every weight, and every lie that says you have to do it all alone. You're not abandoned. You're not disqualified. You're not lost. You're being led gently, powerfully, and purposefully. So let go of the fight that's not yours to win. Let grace speak louder than guilt. Let peace replace the pressure. The moment you surrender, you step into the freedom, healing, and clarity that was waiting for you all along. The struggle ends where trust begins. It's over. Stop and let God begin.